nakaka-fulfill ang pagtuturo. Malaki ang impact nito sa tao, sa mundo. Nag-tutor ako nung college. At pagka-graduate, naging computer teacher sa high school. Pero may time na nag-stop ako. Naging busy sa trabaho, nawala ng chance magturo. Pero I didn't lose hope. I was able to teach again while working dito sa Accenture. At dahil sa platform na binigay sa amin to give back, nafulfill ko yung purpose ko to make a difference. At mas marami pa akong natuturuan.
At the heart of every great change is a great human. Come help us create value with businesses everywhere.
Tough times call for solidarity and cooperation among organizations and also towards their stakeholders and communities. But the pandemic and the continuing community quarantine has limited companies and organizations when it comes to following through on their community outreach and development initiatives, because all these were heavily dependent on face-to-face interaction. How did they respond? We are about to find out today. Welcome to Thrive Through Change, a series of roundtable discussions, videos, podcasts, and articles from Rappler in partnership with Accenture in the Philippines. In this campaign, we explore how combining human creativity with the best of technology can help develop solutions to issues brought about by the pandemic. My name is Cheska Calao, and once again, I will be your moderator. In this discussion, we will talk about how organizations found ways to address some of the unprecedented challenges the world experienced during these difficult times. We will zoom in on how important it is to make sure that people greatly affected by our current situation are able to adapt to fast-changing economic conditions. We will also touch on a specific community initiative that's a little bit tricky to adapt to in our new reality: education. Nothing compares to face-to-face interactions when it comes to classes, training sessions, and seminars, but our panel will share how they managed to continue providing help despite our current situation. Joining us today on the panel are Luis Sabarriaga, Corporate Citizenship Executive Sponsor for Accenture in the Philippines, Love Basiliote, Executive Director of Philippine Business for Education, or PBED, and Jigo Alampay, founder of the Center for Art, New Ventures, and Sustainable Development, or Canvas. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here today, and I'm glad to see everyone's looking great, and I know you're ready for the discussion, so let's get right to it. You are so determined to give back to our communities. This is among your top priorities for you and your organizations. Can you tell us how you responded when the pandemic hit? What were some of the challenges you encountered in implementing initiatives? Let's start with Luis. I know Accenture Philippines has been very active in community outreach.
Yes, thank you, Cheska. And good afternoon, everyone. To answer your question, when the community quarantine restrictions were put in place, we first, of course, ensured the safety and well-being of our people. Then even more with the pandemic, we remain committed to being a responsible business and citizen. We do this through the work that we're doing for our clients, how we're supporting our people, and also how we're creating a positive change in the communities where we operate. We are committed to making a difference in the Philippines and to help address some of the societal challenges and needs that are most pressing in our country. Our CSR efforts very much align to this and are anchored on the UN Sustainable Development Goals or UN SDGs. And we've put special focus on the SDGs that are most relevant for the communities where we operate, like decent work and economic growth, quality education, zero hunger and no poverty, gender equality, and good health and well-being. Now, for the second part of your question, which is around the challenges we face with the pandemic and the quarantine restrictions, of course, everything went virtual. So, for one, a key component of our CSR programs is volunteering, where we provide various opportunities for our employees to volunteer their hours and skills to initiatives that they are passionate about. A number of these volunteering activities are in person, like with Brigada Escuela or our Hour of Code sessions with the kids. But of course, now all in person volunteering is no longer feasible. Then, for our upskilling programs for the disadvantaged Filipinos, we had to go virtual, fully virtual as well. And the challenge we found is the readiness of our partners, our learners, and even the instructors to really shift to full virtual mode of learning and teaching. Access to devices and connectivity is another challenge that we saw, since most of our learners are from poor communities and not all are really technology enabled.
Thank you so much, Luis. Every time I do a roundtable discussion with Accenture, I hear of more programs, more initiatives. Especially when I spoke to Accenture's country managing director, Sir Lito Tayag. Accenture was determined to pull through the pandemic, with everyone in Accenture, and including the social responsibility that comes with it. So thank you so much for that. What about you, Love? PBED also has great projects.
Hi, Jessica, and hi, everyone. Thanks for the question. Yeah, like for us, we in Accenture, we also had to plan properly and be flexible and agile. So at PBED, the pandemic and the ensuing mobility restrictions and the lack of information that come with the pandemic have caused our programs some delays and added costs to implementation. So basically, it became more expensive to deliver services, especially with the shift to online delivery. And in a way, it has limited our reach to communities that already had access to technology or those who could already reach by our network of partners.
And of course, I can only imagine the impact that COVID-19 had on both students and educators and all the investments that came along with it, whether it be internet or new gadgets. So let's move on to Jigo. How about you? What difficulties have you encountered?
Thank you, Cheska. Well, like everyone else at the start, it was more about the uncertainty. How long would the restrictions last? For those who might not know, Canvas is a nonprofit that gives away children's books to kids in poor communities all over the Philippines. The pandemic made it unsafe for us to gather children, as we usually did when we gave away our books. Even the task of physically sending the books out to partners in different schools and communities in the different provinces was not allowed. So how could we continue to do what we do? We had to rethink our activities and imagine ways to do them online. Canvas has always invested in ICT, so the adjustment wasn't that difficult. We've held exhibitions online for years, and all our books have been freely downloadable on our website from the very start. But we knew that we had to do more now. We also had to reassure our staff. I remember one of the first things I did was to email everyone and to tell them no one's going to get laid off, salaries will continue to be paid, and most importantly, everyone's still going to be covered by health insurance.
Just hearing you say it, no one is going to be laid off. That must be so heartwarming and reassuring to everyone around you. So thank you for that, Jigo. And of course, I am interested to know how you were all able to adapt to this new reality. Did you launch new initiatives and shifted everything to a virtual setup? Luis, maybe you can start?
Well, first, for our existing CSR programs, we had to adjust and really address the challenges I mentioned earlier. For our employees to continue to volunteer, we quickly shifted and established digital volunteering platforms that would still allow our employees to make a difference virtually. Then, for our upskilling programs for our fellow Filipinos, we had to enable our partners and the instructors to conduct the modules virtually, and for our learners to access the training virtually as well. We also launched new COVID related CSR programs. These new initiatives stayed true to our focus of helping address the UN SDGs that I mentioned earlier, and we are doing these new initiatives in collaboration with our partners. First, we know that the biggest impact of the pandemic in the country is really hunger. So, in partnership with Caritas Manila, we distributed food vouchers to 180,000 families in NCR Plus, as well as in other provinces in Ilocos, Visayas, and even Mindanao, so they can purchase their essential needs. We also have a 6-month feeding program for 5,000 malnourished children in NCR Plus. All of these are for our fellow Filipinos from poorest communities whose lives are badly affected by the pandemic.
That's another way of reassuring families out there that they don't have to worry about where the next meal is coming from. Thank you, Louise.
Yeah, that's right, Cheska. And I would say, aside from responding to the immediate need to address hunger, we also want to help in rebuilding communities. So, one of our ways to do this is to conduct livelihood and upskilling programs. We want to help those whose jobs were affected by the pandemic. We have partnered with the Philippine Business for Social Progress, or PBSP, to conduct livelihood training programs that aim to equip beneficiaries with entrepreneurial and technical vocational skills. This will assist about 14,000 families and close to 1,300 individuals through PBSP's programs such as Mask for All PH, Super Carinderia, and Kada Uno in select NCR Plus cities, Visayas, and Mindanao. Together with PBSP, we are also working with other grant partners like Leonard Cheshire, Plan International, and Save the Children to extend the same training and livelihood programs to an additional 3,000 individuals. And as part of our regular CSR upskilling programs, we're also enabling individuals to be ready for job opportunities. We have the Skills to Succeed Academy, which is an online learning program to help Filipino youth start their career, help them land the first job, or maintain and build their career. We also have the Near Hire Training Program, which is essentially a 15-day program for disadvantaged individuals to equip them with basic competencies such as oral English communication, PC navigation, and interviewing skills with the goal of helping them get employed in our industry. Then finally, to help address any potential learning gaps that may have been caused or worsened by the pandemic, we've initially donated 270 units of tablets to 9 public schools to give the students access to technology when we shifted to virtual school. And I'm very happy to share that we have a partnership with PBED. We have recently launched the Kiddie Learning Train Community Program, where we aim to teach 1,000 kinder to grade 3 public school students to help them recover from learning losses and improve their proficiency in reading and math. To ensure the success of this program, we have also donated 1,000 tablets with internet connectivity to these students.
Again, amazing to hear, because the shift to studying from home is not cheap. The cost of those gadgets, the cost of internet, that doesn't come cheap. And again, it's amazing to hear that you're helping alleviate the worries and the concerns of parents all around the nation. What about you, Love? We already heard a little bit about the Kiddie Learning Train project with Accenture from Luis. What else can we look forward to from PBED?
A lot, Cheska. And just on the kiddie learning train, I'm very happy to share that the train has officially left the station. We've turned over the tablets to the kids, and really looking forward to the learning that will happen there. And for us to be able to do that, we could really only do that because we aggressively communicated with our partners like Accenture about the situation and co-developed a plan that incorporated the reality of COVID in the long term. We also reached out to other partners, new and old, and pitched program ideas that we believe have high development impact. And so currently we have 2 ongoing projects. The first is called YouthWorks, which targets the training and employability of young adults. And by young adults, I mean 18 to 30 years old, through private sector provided on-the-job training and theoretical training that happens online. We're also giving them tablets in order for them to access this training. We are implementing this with the support of the United States Agency for International Development, or USAID, and a network of private sector partners. The other one is called A Future That Works. This is an ongoing project that works with select sectoral associations in mapping out the skills and training needs for what we call just in time and future jobs. We see this as a system strengthening initiative designed to put private sector participation at the heart of skills and training reforms. One thing that we have in the pipeline is our advocacy called Jobs Next. This is a voucher program that will provide about 20,000 pesos for skilling, both upskilling and reskilling, to every Filipino in jobs of the future. Happy to report that legislation has been filed in both houses of Congress, and we are currently in conversations with a couple of local government units to implement Jobs Next by next year.
Thank you, Love. Really exciting projects that are preparing people for the next step after they get that education. And now let's hear from Jigo. What is Canvas gearing up for?
Well, Cheska, in terms of the challenges posed by the pandemic, I think we've done pretty okay. We've ensured our liquidity by rechanneling funds and grants. Everyone in Canvas is now fully vaccinated. And we continued with all our art exhibitions, all of them held online. And most importantly, we've still been able to give away more than 55,000 books directly to children since the pandemic started. We've also been able to publish new books on issues that matter a great deal today. So for example, at the very start when quarantine restrictions were put in place, the Australian Embassy tapped us to produce a children's book to explain to children why they had to stay home and what they could do to remain safe. Then with corporate support, and because we were seeing how many children were actually going online, we produced 2 new books. One is on data privacy for children, and the other is about misinformation and fake news on the internet. Through the books, we hope to reassure kids and their parents that the internet is and will continue to play an important tool that they should learn and use. But they also have to be careful because like all other places, whether virtual or in the real world, there are dangers that they have to be aware of. Finally, I mentioned at the start that the biggest challenge for Canvas was how to get our books into the hands of the children. For this, we worked with LGUs, local government units, and public schools. We gave them the books, tens of thousands of them, and basically piggybacked on their existing initiatives that were geared to sustain and help their constituents. So when the LGUs went to their communities to distribute food and ayuda, our books would be part of the packages that they would be giving to the families. In terms of upcoming projects, we just launched a new activity book for kids aged 6 to 12 on climate change. We have 5 storybooks coming out in November and December, and we have an exciting new initiative with the National Museum on a new mural that Elmore Borlongan is preparing as part of the Quincentennial.
Very important topics discussed in your books because even for us grown-ups, it's so difficult trying to understand this pandemic. What more for children who need to realize that they can't, who need to understand why they can't go out and play with their friends, why they can't go to school and see their classmates every single day. So thank you for doing that, Jigo. Now, I would like to know, how do you see or envision your organization sustaining these programs as the pandemic continues and even afterwards?
Cheska, for Accenture, I would say definitely we will continue our commitment to being a responsible business by helping address the pressing needs in our country and creating a positive impact on the communities where we operate. Despite the challenges from the pandemic, I would say we've actually seen very positive results from the upskilling programs that I spoke about earlier, and we'll continue to ensure that these programs will remain relevant to help our fellow Filipinos build relevant skills that will help them be employed or start a business. We've also seen very encouraging results with our digital volunteering platforms with our employees. So we'll continue to ramp up our efforts around this. For example, we'll continue with our Hour of Code sessions where we teach the basics of coding to the children with the help of our partners. We'll also make sure that we continue with missing maps. Our employees are enjoying that and keen to do more of that. And they're actually helping complete digital maps of uncharted areas, which could eventually be helpful for organizations in their humanitarian efforts. Aside from these, we have been running innovation competitions every year with focus on social innovation. Our employees leverage their skills and emerging technologies to address critical challenges facing society today. We can accelerate social transformation. Usually, our employees work with nonprofit or government organizations when building their solutions so they can really fully grasp specific problems and better serve intended beneficiaries. So definitely, I'd say, Cheska, the engagement of our employees through volunteering and our social innovation competitions will continue to be key for us throughout this pandemic and going forward. And of course, our partners will also be there. Very important for us to continue our collaboration with our partners.
You guys have a full slate, and all of these initiatives sound promising. I would like to enroll in the coding class. How about you, Love? What's in store for PBED after the pandemic?
You know, Cheska, I also want to enroll in the coding class. No, partnerships are very important in sustaining programs with or without the pandemic. This is a unique value proposition that PBED brings to all our programs and policy efforts. So what we do is we bring decision makers together and gather and leverage resources for strategic education interventions. So we look forward to launching more partnerships for education in the coming weeks and months. Institutionalization is also always built into the program design. We do this by getting government to participate in the process to get their buy-in and designing policy packages for easy sponsorship at the legislative level. But more importantly, we involve the community in implementing our programs. These communities with the right support, we believe will in turn take these initiatives forward.
Thank you, Love. Louise, you have two early enrollees for your coding class. But of course, we have seen communities all over the Philippines, all over the world, rising up to the challenge of helping each other out. So thank you for that, Love. And now for Jigo, any insight on how Canvas will carry on with the classes and your education initiatives after the pandemic?
Well, we'll continue to move forward. We're diversifying our sources of revenue so that we can continue to meet our book giving targets. We have PCNC accreditation, which means that donations to Canvas are fully tax deductible. So we're looking to leverage that advantage. It makes it easier for us to get corporate partners, especially those who are into children's literacy and children's education. And we're moving ahead with plans to build a Children's Museum of Philippine Art. It's going to be designed with the pandemic requirements in mind, but it will also be one that will continue to be fully interactive and engaging for children.
We can't wait to see that museum because art breathes life into our culture. So thank you for doing that. And lastly, I would like for all of you to share some wisdom. There are so many people, so many organizations that are also hoping to make a difference and work with purpose during the pandemic. Do you have any advice? Jigo, we can start with you. Coming from an institution where education and literacy are your main advocacies, do you have any tips for others who are also gearing up with their own education initiatives?
I mentioned a while ago that we launched a new book on climate change. Climate change is real, it's ongoing, and it's here for the long term. There's nothing really we can do to prevent it, but we can adapt and help to make things better over time. So it's the same situation we are in right now with COVID. I think we have to accept that it's here to stay, but that doesn't mean that we have to cower and hide. There are a lot of new opportunities, and I have no doubt that the ones best equipped to adjust and adapt are our children. So that's the lesson we have to tell our children, to never lose hope, because we can always change, we can always adapt. There is no new normal. This is it, and it changes, and it will continue to change. So we have to be prepared to change with it. I think these are exciting times.
Thank you so much, Jigo. What about you, Love?
Yeah, I don't want to be too philosophical about things, but what I think is most insidious or traidor in Filipino about the pandemic isn't the impact of COVID on our physical health. It is actually this growing sense of powerlessness and loss of agency that puts people in a position where, it's becoming harder and harder to help others when we can't even get really a grip of our own lives, right? So I'm a firm believer of this Zulu belief, that the belief is called Ubuntu, and that speaks about how our humanity depends on the existence of the other. And so the cure for the powerlessness that this pandemic brings, I believe, is actually more humanity towards each other. So, putting this in more concrete terms, right, I encourage people to look around their immediate community and see what good people are doing. And I'm sure there are a lot. If you see something that resonates, go help and support. If you see a need that hasn't been met yet, try to help maybe one or two people if you can. Every little thing helps. And from a PBED perspective, I hope that you tell people about our programs and the many programs that other organizations are doing. People who could benefit, but also people whom you think might be and willing to help. Finally, do vote and make your voice heard by electing leaders who care about improving people's lives.
Every little thing helps. Thank you for the advice, love. Let's hear from Louise.
As for me, taking it from a personal and individual lens, as you heard from Sir Jigo and Miss Love, there are a lot of opportunities to help, but my advice is really to reflect on what you're passionate about. Is teaching your passion? Is enabling PWDs, or maybe taking care of the environment, like addressing the climate change that, like what Sir Jigo said earlier, are those something that you're keen to do? Do you have technology skills that you want to use for social innovation? I believe that you would find more fulfillment and enjoy devoting your time and skills in helping others if it's aligned to your own passion and purpose. That's my take, Cheska.
Thank you, Louise, and thank you to our panelists. This has been our last roundtable discussion for Thrive Through Change. Please check out Rappler's Brand Wrap section and social channels to learn more about this series in partnership with Accenture in the Philippines. You can catch up on articles, podcasts, and previous roundtable discussions on how both individuals and companies can thrive through change as we look toward a brighter future beyond this pandemic. Once again, we would like to thank our panelists, Luis Sabariaga, Corporate Citizenship Executive Sponsor for Accenture in the Philippines, Love Basiliote, Executive Director of Philippine Business for Education, or PBED, and Jigo Alampay, founder of the Center for Art, New Ventures, and Sustainable Development, or Canvas. Your insights are a perfect way to cap off this series. We need more people like you. We need more organizations like you. We need more companies like you, because this is how we are going to get through this pandemic together. And to everyone watching, thank you for joining us here on Rappler. My name is Cheska Liton-Calao, and let's keep thriving through change.